Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. I am well and I hope all of you are doing very well. Today's video is on TDS on GST applicable to government organizations, government departments. This video is very much relevant for all the drawing disbursing officer. So let's start the class. GST law mandates TDS on GST by section 51 of CGST Act, CGST SGST Act, section 20 of IGST Act and section 21 of UTGST Act. GST Council in its 28th meeting, GST Council in its 28th GST Council meeting, which was held on 21st July 2018, mandates TDS on GST with effect from TDS on GST with effect from 1st October 2018. So in today's class we shall discuss what are the rate of TDS, when TDS is required to be deducted, and in case if TDS is not deducted, then what are the consequences that DDO will face, and all the things. So stay till the end, we shall discuss this topic very elaborately, and I hope after this class you don't have any query on TDS on GST. Applicability. On whom it is applicable? Deduction of TDS is applicable. किस पे applicable होगा? Is applicable on government organizations, government departments, central government, state government, local authority. Next one is government agencies. There are so many government agency. Then authority established under the Act, under the law of Parliament. Authority established under law of Parliament, under Act. Authority established under Act, under the law of Parliament, like ICI. Institute of Chartered Accountant of India is established under the Act of Parliament. The authority established under the Act. Society established by the government and registered under the Society Registration Act. Established by the government, registered under Society Registration Act. Like there are so many societies like Sarva Shikha Mission, Midday Meal. All these are the societies which is partly contributed by the central government and partly by the state government, and all these are covered under the Society Registration Act. So these type of societies are also covered here. And last one is public sector undertaking, PSU, like Coal India, ONGC, all these are things. So TDS is applicable on government department, central government, state government, local authority, government agencies, authority established under the Act, society established by the government, and the PSU, public sector undertaking. Next. When to deduct TDS on GST? When to deduct TDS on GST? When the total value of TDS need to be deducted by the government organization. So for deducting TDS, government needs to take registration. Registration as a tax deductor. Through GST portal, www.gst.gov.in. Through government portal, GST registrations need to be taken as a tax deductor by the government organizations, as discussed in the previous slides. So when after taking the registration, when they require to deduct TDS, when government departments are making payment to the supplier, under a contract for a value excluding GST, rupees 2.5 lakh. So if government organization is making payment to a supplier under a contract throughout the year for a value exceeding rupees 2.5 lakh, to determine this value of 2.5 lakh, the GST component is excluded. So only the taxable value of supply should be more than 2.5 lakh. Here we need to understand that this is the payment should be made under a contract. If a agreement has been undertaken for supplying manpower and the payment is at the rate of rupees 30,000 per month, so in this case TDS is required to be deducted with every payment, because the total value of a contract for a year is more than 2.5 lakh. 30 into 12, 3,60,000, which is more than 2.5 lakh. I think this point you will be able to understand. My viewers will understand this. I am just summarizing this. TDS is required to be paid by the DDOs, by the government organizations, by the local authorities, by government agencies, by Society Registration Act, by the societies covered under Society Registration Act established by the government, when they are making payment to a contractor, to a supplier for a value excluding GST exceeding rupees 2.5 lakh for a year. So this 2.5 lakh under a contract and a year, both need to be considered. First, under a contract and payment throughout the year. Next, rate of TDS on GST. What are the rate of TDS on GST? TDS on GST rate is CGST 1%, SGST 1%, in case IGST 2%, SGST or UTGST 1%. 1% of what? 1% of value of taxable supply excluding GST. Value of taxable supply excluding GST. So this 1% is deducted, or 2%, 1% CGST, 1% SGST, or in case of 2% IGST is to be deducted on the value of taxable supply excluding the GST component, excluding the GST amount. Suppose value of supply is 3 lakh rupees and the GST is 54,000. Total bill value is 3,54,000. TDS is deducted on 3 lakh, not on 54,000. 3 lakh into 2%. 1% for CGST and 1% for SGST. Now we know that in case of intra-state supply, when supply within the state, CGST and SGST both are applicable. In case of intrastate supply, 1% CGST and 1% SGST. And in case of interstate supply, 2% IGST. Intrastate 1% plus 1%. Interstate 2%. Now the question arises, what is intrastate and what is interstate? Intrastate, when the place of supplier, when the location of supplier and place of supply within the state, in that case intrastate. I am telling you once again, intrastate means place of supplier and place of supply. Basically location of supplier, better to say location of supplier. Location of supplier and place of supply is in the same state. In that case intrastate. Suppose one goods one goods is purchased from a supplier which is situated in West Bengal and goods are supplied to the state government. In that case, intra-state is applicable since the place of supplier and place of supply is in the same state. But in case place of supply and place of supply is in the different state, like one goods is supplied from the Gujarat, then in that case interstate is applicable and IGST at the rate of 2% is charged, is deducted as TDS on GST. I think this point is clear. I think this point is clear. Now, next question is that deposit tax to the government. When to deduct tax and when the deposit tax to the government. Tax is required to be deducted during the month whenever we are making the payment. Whenever DDOs are making the payment, they deduct TDS on GST at the time of making payment through IFMS, through the government portal, they deduct TDS. And this TDS need to be deposited to the government within 10th of the next month. 10th of the next month in which tax was deducted, in which TDS on GST was deducted. So when to deposit the tax to the government? 10th of the next month. Suppose in the month of May, this month is July. So if I made a payment in the month of July, I required to deduct, I required to deposit the TDS amount to the government by the 10th of next month, means 10th of August. 10th of next month in which TDS on GST was deducted. How to make the payment to the government? Payment needs to be made through a return GSTR 7. GSTR 7 return needs to be filed for making the payment to the government. So when GSTR 7 need to be filed? GSTR 7 need to be filed within 10th of next month. 10th of next month in which TDS was deducted. In which TDS was deducted. Suppose TDS was deducted in the month of July, then tax need to be deducted. Tax need to be paid to the government through GSTR 7 within 10th of August. Within 10th of August. After depositing to the government a auto-generated certificate, GSTR 7A. GSTR 7A is generated, and this is GSTR 7A needs to be furnished by the deductor to the deductee. DDO needs to be furnished to the supplier. GSTR 7A needs to be given to the supplier. Though everything is on in GST, everything is online, so they automatically get the certificate. But however, in the section it has been given GSTR 7A need to be furnished by the deductor to the deductee within 5th of the month, within 5th day from which the GSTR 7 was submitted. Means the GSTR 7A furnishing last date is 15th of next month. 15th of next month. Within 5 days after submission of GSTR 7, within 5 days you will get the report, and this report, this is GSTR 7A certificate, this is auto-generated. This GSTR 7A certificate need to be furnished by the deductor to the deductee within 5 days of the submission of GSTR 7. What are the consequences if it fails to deduct TDS or late submission of return? In case of fails to deduct TDS or late submission of return, what are the consequences? In case fails to deduct TDS, in that case, the TDS amount along with the interest, along with the interest as specified under section 50 of the CGST Act. So the TDS amount plus interest under section 50 need to be submitted. What are the consequences if late submission of return? TDS was deducted but return was not submitted or payment was not made to the government. In that case, what are the consequences? The late submission, in that case, the fine is rupees 100 per day for CGST, and 100 per day for SGST. So in that case we can say fine is rupees 200 per day, rupees 200 per day. In case of late submission of return, fine is rupees 200 per day, subject to maximum of rupees 5,000, subject to maximum of rupees 5,000, maximum of rupees 5,000. I think this point is clear. When tax is not required to be deducted, in what are the circumstances when tax is not required to be deducted? First, when the taxable value of supply is less than 2.5 lakh. Very simple. Taxable value of supply is less than 2.5 lakh. Suppose a supply is made. I found so many cases in previous days. Suppose a supply is made in which exempt supply and taxable supply both are clubbed. In that case, this 2.5 lakh is considered only for the taxable value of supply. Suppose car hiring charges. In case of car hiring, in government organization, car hiring is given, and the supplier makes the bill for the value of reimbursement of petrol and diesel amount and for the car hiring charges amount. In that case, this 2.5 lakh need to be seen only for the taxable value of supply, not on the petroleum products, because petroleum products are not covered, diesel, petrol, all these are not covered under the GST. So when both the things, exempt supply and taxable supply, are clubbed together and bills were made, in that case we consider only the taxable value of supply. Taxable value of supply should be more than 2.5 lakh under a contract in a year. Next, in case of receipt of exempted goods and exempted services, TDS on GST is not applicable when payment is made for the exempted goods and exempted services. Exempted goods and exempted services. Like suppose in case of CTPOs, they are making payment, or in case of correctional home, they are making payment, a huge amount of payment for the purpose of vegetables and other things. So in that case, if payments are being made for those things which is not covered under GST, for making all these payment, TDS on GST is not applicable. TDS on GST is not applicable. So TDS on GST is not applicable on exempted goods and exempted services. Next is what? If payment is made for the goods on which GST is not leviable. Payment is made for the goods on which GST is not leviable. GST is not applicable. Like there are some goods which are in the negative list on which GST is not applicable. So if a payment is made for these purposes, in that case GST is not applicable. Suppose someone is making salary to employees, salary is not covered under GST, so TDS on GST is not applicable. Next, where payment is required to be made under RCM, where payment is required to be made, GST payment is required to be made under RCM. Payment under RCM. In that case, in case of RCM, receiver are required to pay the GST amount, tax amount. So supplier does not require to deduct TDS on GST. So on those cases on which RCM is applicable, TDS on GST is not applicable. TDS on GST is not applicable. Next is what? If payment is made to unregistered supplier. We know there are limit of 20 lakh and 40 lakh limits are there. If that limit will cross, then and only then GST is required to be, GST registration is required to be taken. If the payment is made to the supplier who is not required to be covered under GST because of turnover criteria, if payment is made to that person, in that case GST is not applicable. In that case, TDS on GST is not applicable. Suppose there is a supplier who is supplying a stationery item to a particular office, to a particular government office. In a year, they supply a stationery of 5 lakh rupees, but they have no other business. Total turnover of that person is only 10 lakh. Then in that case, that person is not required to deduct TDS, and the government organization which are making payment to that particular supplier is also not required to deduct TDS, since that person is not covered under GST, that person is unregistered. I think this point is clear. If any payment is, if Treasury makes any objection on clearing the bills, then DDO gives a certificate from the concerned supplier that registration criteria is not fulfilled, turnover criteria is not fulfilled, so the supplier is not required to take registration, so they are not making payment to so TDS is not applicable while making payment to that supplier. I think that point is clear. Second thing, this TDS is applicable on there some 7 criteria, like a government organization, state government, central government, PSU. When payment is made between these persons, like PSU to government, government to PSU, PSU to PSU, PSU to society, if payment is made between the specified person, between the person who is specified for taking the registration to TDS on GST, in that case TDS on GST is not required. TDS on GST is not required. Like payment to PSU to PSU, like payment to PSU to PSU, PSU to PSU, or PSU to government. In that case, if a payment is made between the concerned departments, in that case also TDS on GST is not applicable. Thank you for today. Thank you for your patience hearing. I hope all of you understand this point. In case of any query, we can mail me at mjha.ca.cs.cma@gmail.com. My personal phone number is there also. You can contact me 9990931206 for your query and updates. Second thing, those my viewers who are going to appear for the examination purpose in CA Inter, CA Final, CS Inter, become level, they see this video again, sit with pen and pencil, make the notes, so that at the time of revising you just see your notes, and you will be able to capture, you will be able to understand the whole concept. Thank you friends, thank you for today, thank you for your hearing, thank you.